He lit the cigar, the flames licking at the end of the paper tube filled with tobacco. John's eyes darted back at the clinic behind him, then at the massive Fiori warrior before him. Fiori were the thugs of the universe, and that was if you were talking politely. 7 feet tall, half-ton outside of armor, which was never, and a full 2 tons when encased in their ceremonial battle armor. They were positively monstrous. And of course, Senate law stated that their battle armor was purely ceremonial. Even though John had yet to see a single piece of said ceremonial armor that didn't have monomolecular blades in the forearms. Or a suit that lacked high-end electromagnetic shielding, usually purchased by their benefactors or those seeking to pay off their ilk. Their insanely durable physiology only furthered their ability to perform the roles of thugs. Physically tough and biologically redundant, the average Fiori has a number of organs that are naturally inclined to letting them survive and even thrive in the harshest environments. Their eyes are side-set on their bodies, granting them 240-degree vision. Normally a trait in prey animals, this feature has been adapted to let them see oncoming predators from a wide angle of vision. Anatomically, they have a pronounced protrusion along their back, where a human would otherwise have a flat spine. It contains a secondary nervous cluster and reservoir for neuroconductive fluid. Fiori possess a thick hide, which are virtually impervious to cuts, scrapes or contusions. With an assortment of redundant organs, such as 4 pairs of lungs, a secondary and tertiary heart, an enlarged hypothalamus, additional adrenal and digestive glands in the parathyroid and endocrine systems. They are highly resistant to environmental hazards, including toxins, radiation, and extreme heat and cold. Even their nervous system is extremely durable, with Fiori having the ability to pump internally produced autocoagulating neuroconductive fluid that functions as a replacement for the primary nervous system in the event of spinal damage or serious nerve damage. In addition to redundancy, the Fiori are physically tough. Though they have hardened hides, Fiori also possess a limited exoskeleton on their bodies. This exoskeleton consists of a slanted, almost hemispherical plate covering the forehead, leading over the top of the head, and covering the back of the neck. Though they are mammals, the Fiori have an extremely rapid breeding cycle. The average Fiori female is almost constantly in estrus, except when pregnant, which is most always in Fiori culture. And this combined with an extremely short maternity cycle and rapid physical maturation allows the Fiori to rapidly reproduce on an almost phenomenal scale. As if that wasn't enough, with their complex and hardy biology, Fiori are able to digest most anything, making the task of feeding these populations simple enough with enough given resources. Rumors of them being cannibals were not exactly rumors. And this particular specimen, Battlemaster Uvink, had the bones of several different species draped around his neck in a crude necklace. He could identify at least 4 separate human femurs, a Msuri jawbone, and a Kegelmaid eyeball. John knew all this because he was a doctor. He was a doctor with a 20mm steel clam manufacturing Gauss pistol leveled squarely at his face. The slave-built pistol was a standard sidearm for the Fiori, its magnetized exterior casing engulfing an armor-piercing tungsten core. Enough recoil to break a man's wrist, and enough killing power to blow his chest inside out and throw him clean off his feet. It had probably been built by the hands of a slave youth from another race. Probably a child. The Fiori were also notorious slavers. They would raid entire colony worlds, slaughtering the defenders. Any who didn't fight, including women and children, were hobbled, crippled and given neural stapling. Illegal, but again, the Fiori didn't care. Nor did the Gith or the Confederation or any other group that used slave labor or performed testing on slaves. "You know what I want, ape," the Fiori rumbled. John would lower his macro synthesizer, the bracelet quietly humming as the synthesized flames were extinguished, its dull blue holographic display calming. It was a medical edition, rather cutting-edge medical stuff in fact. Unless you are sick, dying, or in unyielding agony, I'm not forking over 5 crates of donated adrenaline. I don't care how much your bosses stand to make. People donated it, some dead, some living. Donors that wanted it to go to a good cause, not to some junkie looking to get an edge in a fist fight. There was a low whine as the pistol's coils warmed up. John was able to see a few sparks of lightning arc between the coils as it was pressed against his left eye. His heart thumped in his chest. You want, I add you to the dead donor list, human? The brute asked, the 2 lanky forms of the Vazgel behind him, staring at the human-like vultures. Which they were, in a sense, but not in the cannibalistic one. They were addicts to a special chemical cocktail, the sort of cocktail that involved the introduction of adrenaline. Available in non-human forms, but their culture valued the concept of taking the cheapest option. With the abundance of humans, that meant that organic adrenaline was their caviar of choice. No, he replied firmly, moving to keep his hands near his head. John took a puff of the cigar. He could allow himself a bit of unhealthiness. Just 'cause your kind is weak enough to help others doesn't make it so they will help you back. He sneered, his almost reptilian features drawing back in a sneer. Your species may fluff yourselves up, but you're little better than mentally impaired whelps. Our kind eats the ones that are stupid enough to not look after themselves. Is why your clinic was doomed from the start, he explained, gesturing at the doorway with his free hand, the pistol still pressed firmly against John's eye. John reached down to the console built into the divider, making a few keystrokes. The doorway slid open with a quiet hiss of chemically diffused air. While multiple races required different atmospheric pressures, the clinic was built to maintain a steady medium. Humans were adaptable to most any kind of inclement weather or conditions, one of their few perks, which allowed them to operate, albeit uncomfortably, in a clinic just like this one. John couldn't help but ruminate on the fact that he just put his entire staff at risk. Don't get any funny ideas either, bilge licker, the Fiore brute stated, gesturing for John to come around with a wave of his pistol. As the doctor did so, he did feel the press of the pistol's chamber against the back of his head, leading him along. If you try anything funny, I will put a bullet in every male, and then shackle whatever women you have here. Maybe even make myself a harem, he remarked with a sadistic chuckle. That's what you humans call it, right? Harem? He asked, but John didn't answer. He was more focused on the clinic ahead. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description.